Welcome back. On this episode, I'm joined by Dan Smith, president of Rusty Taco. Dan came to the president role of Rusty Taco about a year ago and is completely changing things up across the brand. Rusty Taco has an amazing history, over 40 plus years in the business. And Dan is coming in with this amazing leadership style, which we get a chance to kind of see in action in this episode, and kind of redefining what success looks like and taking the brand to the next level. This is an incredible episode. I hope you enjoy. Dan, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm good, man. Great to be here from the great state of Texas.
Let's do it. I haven't been to Texas since FS Tech. So I'm always looking forward to coming back. There's so many amazing brands, so many restaurants. It feels like in our business, we work a lot with brands with drive-thrus. And it feels like in Texas, everything has a drive-thru. You have your pharmacies, you have your QSRs, you have your banks. You get around by car. So it's amazing.
Very true. Very true.
Awesome. Well, hey, I'm really excited to talk to you a little bit more about your current role with Rusty Taco. I think that you got into a really exciting opportunity. But before we dig deeper into your agenda there and all the cool things you're working on, let's take a step back. You've been in the restaurant industry for a long time. How the heck did you get into the restaurant industry, and what has been your journey up until this point within, restaurants?
Yeah, that's it's a scary story, but first day of college, my dad reminded me as I walked out the door, hey, you're going to need a job. And I thought, oh my God, I'd been a paper boy up to this point. And I walked into a restaurant. I knew a guy was working there, and I grabbed a job as a dishwasher. And so, that's how it all started. I only washed dishes one day, and from there it was history. And I ended up working with that company for 26 years, if you can believe it. So, but it started in a dish pit.
And that was with Claim Jumper, right?
That was Claim Jumper on the West Coast. Yeah, for sure.
How did the brand, over your tenure there, over 26 years, how did the brand evolve, and what are the types of roles that you held as you kind of moved up the ranks there?
Yeah. It's an amazing story. Besides a lot of, all the good that happened and the well thought out things that happened, it was very much a right place, right time as well. When I jumped in when there was just like one or two restaurants, and then we ended up growing it to 50.
Wow.
And they were all big, we had restaurants as big as 16,000 square feet, and we were in, I want to say 9 different states. My memory leaves me. But super high volume, Cheesecake Factory style menus, a lot of items, most of the stuff scratch made. But the restaurant was, that company was really based off a vision of a founder of just offering large portions of quality food. And it just, during the late 70s, early 80s and 90s, it was just off the charts. It was really resonated with people, and we'd have waits a couple hours long. But it started with a smaller menu, and it just slowly grew. It just grew, and it grew to offering wood-fired pizzas. It grew to a massive amount of desserts, having a bakery inside the restaurant. And the restaurant, it really got dialed in. The owner was very specific about wanting to be great at what we did. He didn't cut corners. He didn't look for the easy way out. He didn't market. The marketing in those, for the first 20 years was, he would say to us, like, let's just put it on the plate. Let's give it to the guests. That's our marketing dollars. Word of mouth is the best thing we have. And I've carried a lot of that with me, really recognizing the power of people to people marketing, where people just fall in love in something and they talk about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. In that generation, right? I think of Hometown Buffet. I think of these large restaurants that people come in and they get a bit of everything. You get a pizza, you can get dessert, you can get steak, you can get wings, you get everything. And I think over the years, things have started to become more niche, where the restaurants that operate today that are successful, they kind of know their place, and they try to simplify the menu as much as possible.
Yeah.
Would you say that has kind of been the trend, is like we started off with these restaurants that have everything under one roof, and then it's become more niche and more focused on one specific area, one specific cuisine?
Well, I would say it's easier to do it that way.
Right. From a cost perspective, sure.
Absolutely. When you get people that stick around in your company for years and years and decades, their skill set, they master their skills. So it's easier to do more. Nowadays, there's more turnover that people are kind of transitory. They kind of come and go. And that's how the restaurant's been for a long time. But I think there's restaurant companies that very much specialize in very specific things. And then it goes out from there. Referring back to Claim Jumper, and not that I thought we'd spend too much time talking about Claim Jumper, but one of the things that we talked about back then, and we still talk about today, and it's something I've carried with me forever, is quality, variety, and uniqueness. Whatever we do, it's got to be high quality. Okay. We can't back up on quality. 3 years from now, we can't say, oh, we're giving less quality. The variety is we would like to avoid the veto vote. We'd like people to be able to enjoy us. You know what you want, you go get what you want. But there's this theory that you can attract a wider variety of people if you offer a little bit of variety. And then uniqueness. One thing that the owner used to say to me when I worked at Claim Jumpers, he used to just say, look, if they can make it at home, if they can duplicate what you're doing at home, why are you here? You're going to lose it. One
Right.
cool thing he would do, it's funny. I'm flooding with memories. One time he walked in and he grabbed me, and I was a multi-unit, a regional guy overseeing 10 restaurants in a couple different states. And we met at a restaurant. I think it was in Vegas. And he said, hey, look, tonight, like I want to work with you. And I said, great. And he goes, let's work at the dish station. And I said, oh, okay, great. I'm going to destroy my shirt. Let's do it. And he's like, no, no, no. We're going to see what people bring back to the dish station. We're going to see what
Right.
people don't eat. It just taught me to think differently about the restaurant business
Right.
because you start watching what people don't eat and you start realizing, okay, well, there's an opportunity there. We can
Right.
still be the same restaurant we are, but we can start eliminating some waste. And that really set me down a path of how I approach restaurants.
Yeah, that's a very unique insight, and I've heard that from my Joe Alanis, who is the founder of Beyond Juicery, is that you have to pay attention to the bus stop and see the types of food people aren't eating, and that helped inform him on the direction to take his brand. He started moving more into healthy alternatives, and I think that's a really non-traditional way to look at restaurants because you're seeing what people don't like. Usually, you want to see what people like and build on top of that, but I think that's a really cool insight there. Let's fast forward. I know there's been tons of brands that you worked on from Claim Jumper till now. Curious, how did you run into Rusty Taco? What was that? What was that spark that convinced you to take on this role?
I was with a brand called Hop Dottie Burger Bar prior to that, and I was there just right at just a little less than 7 years. And I'll tell you something that kind of will tee off or kind of close out what we were just talking about. The guys who founded Hop Dottie Burger Bar also founded Bravo Brio and Eddie V Steakhouse, and I think they currently own probably 7 or 8 brands in the Austin market and Dallas and whatnot. Brilliant guys, been around forever. And when you ask them about the menu, I sat with one of them, a gentleman, and I won't use his name, but I think he's brilliant. And someone was mentioning to him, "Hey, we should do some focus groups and understand what people like." And he said, "Hey, I'll make great food. I'll tell people what they're going to like. I don't need to listen to them." And so there's a variety, right? There's
Yeah.
a span of how you approach it. If you can make great food, he told me, he had that famous saying that, if people would have asked Henry Ford, or Henry Ford said, if I asked people what they want, they'd said faster horse. And he
Yeah.
said, look, I'm going to create stuff that they're going to love. But, what inspired me to go to Rusty Taco? Well, you know what? I grew up on the West Coast. I was a surfer. I surfed all over the place, all up and down Mexico, South America, California, Hawaii, a lot. Stood in front of a lot of taco stands. Enjoy tacos everywhere I went. Rusty Taco, there's a great saying that Rusty himself, I think him or his daughter coined, but it was tacos are the most important meal of the day. So always love tacos, make them at home all the time. And so when this opportunity came along, it was like, wow, I've been in the pizza, I've been in steaks, I've been in seafood, I've been in all these Italian, all these different industries. And
Right.
tacos just sound like really fun. They're very relevant. So it was a natural draw for me.
Nice. And I heard that you kind of went secretly and visited a couple of the locations to try the food yourself, right? You went around, talked to the operators, talked to the employees from doing that experiment. First of all, I love doing that. What did you learn? What did you learn about the brand? And other than wanting to get into tacos and having great food, what sparked you to see some opportunities in this brand that you could probably improve on or even just like have an impact on?
I've done that with every brand I go to. Before I go there, I call it looking under the hood.
Yes.
And I did it at Hop Dottie. I did it with a lot of other brands. And And so what I did is, there was a several month period that I knew I was going to come on board Rusty Taco, but I hadn't started yet. I was wrapping up some other things and just, taking a little time. And so I just traveled around. I jumped on a plane and went to some different locations, and I just wanted to see what it looked like. I really mainly was interested in the culture. I wanted to
Hmm.
understand what is the culture, because when I look at restaurants, food is important. Food's it, but you know, the culture is really what drives the brand. And so wanting to understand what the culture was going to look like, if there were challenges, what was I going to be up against? What were the strengths and the weaknesses? And then I also would go, in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, and see how the people behaved, not behave, but how they interacted, as well as how the buildings looked, as well as what the food was like at those different times of the day. And so, yeah, it's a sneak peek. It's a look under the hood, because once people know me, then every time I walk in a restaurant, like most restaurant leaders, they know who you are, and things change. People tighten
Absolutely.
up when you walk in, and if you
Right.
order a meal, they'll go back and make sure it's perfect. When in reality, I just want reality. I just want what the guests get. Show me what the guests get, and then, because that's the reality. And so I
Hmm.
knew I had a limited amount of time to really understand that. So
I see. And what did you find? What were some of the strengths within the brand, and what were some of the opportunities that you wanted to work on right away?
the two biggest things that jumped out to me is how fast the food can come out at Rusty Taco. Being in the restaurant business forever, you're talking check times, right? What's your check time? What's your average check time? And when we were at Hop Dottie, we always strive for 8 minutes. 8 minutes. You're cooking a burger from scratch, never pre-cooked, and 8 minutes. And so, you get to Rusty Taco and you've got check times that are running at like 3 minutes. And
It's
so that
impressive.
was like, yeah, they were blowing them out. I mean, there's times when they get a line out the door and a lot of to go, off premise stuff going on, and it screws it up, like, with every restaurant. But food is fast and food is fresh. And, we weren't cutting open bags. We weren't, or they weren't cutting open bags. They weren't, the food was being cooked while I was, ordering food. They might have been cooking maybe 2 orders at a time or 3 orders at a time, and hold it for just a few minutes, and then, make, shrimp tacos, and out they go. So I was really blown away with fast and fresh. And I can buy into that as a consumer. I can buy into it as a leader. I can buy into it. And it was a wonderful platform. It would stress me out if they were going,
Right.
out of bags, and it's like, where was that made? What's in it? What kind of preservatives? So I felt great about that. The things that I saw is, I saw a brand that's been around a long time, and I thought
Yes.
we could introduce some new flavors. We could introduce some new excitement. Flavors change. People's palates change. People get exposed to new things. We're constantly experimenting, and restaurants are innovating, and people start to crave new and exciting things. So why not interject some new things in there? I also thought that there's the franchisees, and then there's the corporate entity. And I learned quickly as I went to the restaurants that there could be a better relationship,
Mm.
that there needs to be a better relationship. And so, was excited about that, and being able to do more for them. Being an ex-franchisee, I understand what it's like. I know what it's like to be a franchisee. I know what it's like to wake up every morning, check your bank account, and say, how we doing? Is payroll going to be good this week? But I saw that better interaction with the franchisees. I also saw better, improving some of the flavors. I also really scoured all the guest comments, scoured all the social media, scoured all the marketing. And I really thought, hey, this brand could really enjoy an improvement with brand tone, different marketing, more excitement, things that, not where people's eyes pass over, but where they pass and they come back and go, wait, what are you saying?
Mm.
Maybe getting out there and picking a fight with somebody, or being a little more controversial, just so people get a better look at us. But I certainly felt like something needed to change. But the bones of the brand really fell in love with, and was very excited about it.
I love that. It's almost like you did a internal audit of everything. You saw the way that the brand was positioning. And I want to ask you about the positioning and how you compete in the next segment. But you looked at all these different elements, and you brought in your experience on the franchisee side when you used to run your own franchises. And you also took the operational experience you acquired at Claim Jumper at other brands and brought that in. One thing that I was very curious about is Rusty Taco has a very long history, as you said, over 40 years with an amazing founder who took really good care of the brand. And then as brands evolve, you have to pass the torch. You have to, find other people to operate the brand. I believe Rusty Taco was owned by Inspire for a period of time, right? And then recently got acquired by Gala Capital Partners. Curious if like you can shed some light for operators that are considering, looking for outside capital, right? Whether it's private equity or strategic partner. How does that affect the brand on a positive and also maybe on a negative? And then also, what would if you were in their shoes, like what would you be looking for when picking the right partner to take money from to make sure that your brand stays intact?
Yeah, great question, complicated question for
It is. It
sure.
is totally. We
You
can
know,
spend 20 minutes talking about it.
that's right. Brands go through a life cycle, right? And
Right.
and I remember a good buddy of mine, Matt Schweitzer. We were in a restaurant in Nashville, and we were talking about changes that needed to be made to a brand that we were working at. And I was telling him my insight. I was saying that, look, every time a company changes hands, there's new expectations. The new owner has new expectations. They want to grow it. They want to be more profitable. They want something out of the brand because they're the new owner and they have
Right.
they have they
And
have a
it's a
vision
business.
for it. And we're all in the business of business, right? Food is the medium, but business is what it is we do. And we were talking and exploring that it's just weird how through the life cycles of the restaurants, a young brand might be acquired and very little changes other than we want to step up the growth. We want to capture
Right.
lightning in a bottle and go. That was
Right.
a lot of the hop dotty. Then there might be older brands that get acquired and you need to change quite a few more things to be competitive as you head into new markets and whatnot. And so I don't have any very specific answers other than it's this calculation, right? It's this formula. It's this combination of where's the brand in its life cycle? What does the new owners want, the new owners want and expect? And what are you capable of doing? What is the capability? And a lot of that really, it talks about who the brand is and the strength of the brand and the team that's there. Often when I've entered into a brand, we have to make some changes. We have to decide, okay, where are we going? What's the goal? What is the current owner or new owner want? And are the people that are a part of the brand right now, the key people, the leaders, are they able to get us there? And sometimes it's just you can try to turn the people and change their behavior and get them there. Sometimes you just have to make a change. You just have to say, I've got to bring in somebody new and make the change. When I had a franchise group and we were selling it, I wanted to understand who the new owner was because these were my people. Even though the brand wasn't mine, I was a franchisee. These were my people. The leadership team were my people that I had brought in, recruited. We got on the same page. They were reading my reports, doing the things the way I asked. And I know that the new owner would come in. And if I thought for a second the owner would blow them all out for not good reasons, yeah, you got to think about that. Is this, who am I aligning with? And how long am I going to be around? And, if I was going to be around, man, like who I align with is absolutely critical. Anytime I look for a position, who I'm working with is so important. We have to align values. Our values
Absolutely.
need to be in alignment. We all view people differently. And I tend to view people, put them in a very high place, meaning that I think the value of the company is within the people. If I went to work for an organization and they didn't value people the same way I would, then I think there'd be a mismatch. And so I think there's a lot of answers to your question, but a lot of it has to do with life cycle, expectations, strength of team, size of company, et cetera.
Mhm. What stage do you think Rusty Taco's in right now?
I think that Rusty's been around a while. I think, Rusty was founded by Rusty and his wife Denise in Dallas. They bought an old gas station and they opened it up. We still have it. I run it and
It's like a museum.
it's really cool. It's really cool. And what's even cooler is just the clientele that's been going there for a long time. The same guys and girls show up in the morning to get a breakfast taco 7 days a week, it seems like. And it's wild. And, I think Rusty and his wife started the business. Rusty got cancer and passed away. And so they had only had a few restaurants and right before Rusty passed away, they sold the Buffalo Wild Wings. And
Mhm.
so Buffalo Wild Wings got them going. And it's another one of those things. They had different expectations. They had different procedures, different plans. I think they might have changed. It was either them or, then they sold to Inspire. Okay.
Yes.
Buffalo Wild Wings sold to Inspire. Then they changed the name of Rusty to our Taco.
Yes.
And because they didn't think Rusty sounded good. And then it was changed back. And so Rusty's gone through a lot of iterations. There's been, a lot of confusion, I think, that's happened over time. And I think that they were focused on and then left alone and then focused on and left alone. And so where I think Rusty's at right now is we're focusing on it. There's a lot of
Mm.
focus on Rusty, and we're focusing on people. We're focusing on quality, all the big things. What does the business model look like? Is it a good business model? Is the marketing, is it resonating with the people out there? Are we using the current platforms? Are we using influencers? Are we using all the social media? Are we doing things in a really current way? Is the menu relevant and current right now? And then there's the culture. And that's the hardest part, is really, who are we? What's our North Star? I was talking to somebody yesterday about Chick-fil-A, and we were talking about, it doesn't matter where you go in the US, you can go to Chick-fil-A. The people you interact with, they can be, white, black, brown, yellow. It doesn't matter. They can be young, middle-aged. They can be old. It doesn't matter. They all have the same qualities.
It's
The culture
consistent.
is the same. It's super consistent. People appreciate what they get. And that's moving a battleship. That's moving an aircraft carrier, trying to change it. So we're in the process of hopefully instilling great culture. Some of our franchisees do an amazing job. They have great teams, but also, we have some that need some work. And when we came on board, we had to close some down, do what's best for the brand.
Yeah. And how has the relationship between corporate and the franchisees changed since you've taken the helm?
Yeah.
This is a very touchy subject because even last night there was an article that came out about Hardee's, and one of their franchisees are getting sued by the brand because they're not keeping their hours open past 2 o'clock to try to stay alive. And there are some brands like Chick-fil-A where the relationship with the franchisor and the franchisees is really strong. So since you got into the role, how have you been able to bring the franchisee, the community closer? And let's segue afterwards on what type of franchisee are you looking for to bring to the brand? Who are you selling to? And when you think of the long-term vision of Rusty Taco, what is the type of operator you want to bring to your brand?
I think this is the number two most complicated question, because it is all about trust, right? The franchisee, they bought something. I tell my team, hey, look, all of us, we can quit our jobs. We can go find another job. We'll probably all land on our feet. But franchisees sign personal guarantees. They take their life savings. They take their family money. They make investments. And we need to be really mindful of that. And so it's creating a spirit of trust. Okay. Trust and support is what we talk about all the time. Dan Cathy at Chick-fil-A, not to overuse Chick-fil-A, but legend has it that he stands in front of his home office team and he says, if you ain't serving chicken, you better be serving somebody that's serving chicken. And I don't know how true that is, but I've repeated it. And I say it in my office that if you ain't serving tacos, you better be serving somebody that's serving tacos. And so I think that when I came on board, most of the franchisees said, hey man, yeah, nice to meet you. How long are you going to be here? You going to be leaving soon? Right? Because we've had, I don't know how, we've had with all the different, companies that have bought us, they've made changes, they shift their procedures, they have different expectations, they offer us different things. And so it was a poor experience for me in the beginning because I'm fairly genuine. I'm fair, I've got truth serum running through my veins, and I'm
You're a
honest with
Texan.
people.
You're a Texan.
Yeah,
Everyone loves a Texan.
there you go. And so, it's just like with customers. That claim jumper founder used to tell me, you win a guest one at a time. Okay. You don't blanket and go out and win 100 guests. You win them one at a time through consistency, through quality, through great experience, memorable experience, et cetera. And so I've tried, I'm trying to interact with the franchisees. Some are easy. Some are harder. Some have less trust. Some have more trust. When we bring a new one on, they're ones that I've met. I've nurtured the relationship along. Some of the older ones, they're still skeptical. Several of them have jumped on board and said, hey, I like your style. I like where you're going. I want to be involved. And they've committed. And so love that. But it's not about me. Okay. It's about them, their profitability, their same store sales. That's what matters. That's the health of the brand. And that's where our team continually tries to focus. And so I remind our team all the time, this is not about us. I don't have a drive through at my home office. There's not people picking up food out of my home office, right? We don't sell anything. And so it's all about what happens at the franchise locations. But as far as what we're looking for, we're looking for people that are passionate about restaurants. If a dentist comes to me and says, hey, I made a lot of money, I'm a dentist and I want to open one. Hey, I get some red flags. No offense to dentists, but if you haven't been in the business, because they'll find an operator, and this has been my experience in my life, prior to coming to Rusty, is the guy with the money will find an operator, and then something will happen in 12 months and the operator leaves. And then they can never find the right operator again, or they make the grave error of saying, I'm going to do it myself. And then I'm going to bring all my years of dentistry or whatever, engineering to the restaurant industry. And it's never the same. The restaurant industry is hard. Most of us are strange. It's complicated and we have an understanding of it and we're tough. We handle it. And so anyways, looking for people that have been in the restaurant industry, people that are serious about it, less interested in, hey, I'd like to open one restaurant, very interested in people that want to open 3 to 5 or more, that want to buy a territory and just make it happen. There's this economy of scales. You can open up one and make good money. Then you open up two, but you got to have some support and your cash flow is a little less. And you open up three and then you'll hit this stride down the road when you get 4, 5, or 6, where all of a sudden now you're making good money again. And I don't think everybody understands how that works because it takes
Right.
some internal corporate support to run multiple locations. It's hard to do it by themselves. And I know that from experience, but we would love people that are passionate about tacos. Sounds goofy, but sure. And also people that are passionate about people. I've learned something in my career and that people that win get used to winning. They get addicted to winning, and people that lose are kind of okay losing. And that
Right.
sounds really cold, but like, I don't want to lose. And losing is accepting mediocrity, because I think
Yeah.
mediocrity runs rampant in the restaurant industry. It's out there everywhere. The difference between us and the next guy is just the details, how we interact with people, how we treat our guests, what our building looks like, what our food tastes like, the consistency of it. And so, yeah, those are things that when you interview them, you try to understand, where's your head at as an operator. Is this something that I'm going to do off to the side, or is this something I'm going to pour myself into? And in about 15 minutes of meeting somebody, I typically can tell, oh, you're a real operator. I just met a guy out of Florida, and I hope he sees this podcast, because I sat and talked to him on a Zoom, and I'm like, oh, you get it. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're
Absolutely.
that guy, man. You're the guy you're the operator. You're the one that we're looking for, man. You eat and breathe this stuff. And those are the ones we're looking for, because the restaurant industry, it ebbs and flows, right? Winston Churchill said, peacetime is the brief interlude between war. And in the restaurant business, we're always at war. It's
Yeah.
always, whether you're fighting regulation and the whatever, the
Labor laws and
municipality, yeah, all of it, and
inflation, everything.
all of it, yeah, people calling out, and so the victories are, they're short runs, and then you're in war, and you got to have the right mindset for that.
Yeah. I want my audience to hear this. So last time we spoke, you brought something up that is still in the back of my mind. I've been thinking about it. You brought up a book. It was, I believe, The Secret Number, right? Was that the name of the book, or was it The Magic Number?
It's most important number.
The most important number.
Yeah,
Tell
yeah,
us,
yeah.
tell
It's
us,
sitting
tell
right
us
here.
about
Let me
that.
grab it. It's sitting right here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's Lee Benson. It's a Lee Benson book. It's not new.
Yeah.
But the thing is, somebody turned me on to this, and I'm an avid reader, and I've got a library of books. But the interesting thing about this one book is that, here's the essence: everybody has a number. Doesn't matter what company you're in. You could be selling real estate. You can be an engineer. You can be, making potato chips, or being in the restaurant business, or owning a podcast. There's a number, right? Every person on your team has a number, and you just have to spend some time about it, and sure, for a guy like me, it's enterprise value, right?
Right.
I'm up here. I need to
That's
make
where
sure
you're
that
graded on.
the business has got to be worth something, and I need to drive that. That's my number. But you can take this concept all the way down to like a hostess in a restaurant, and it can be the number of smiles that they do in one day and how many guests they interact with. And so I love the concept. We talk about it on our team. Everybody has a number. Because in the restaurant business, there's a ton of noise. There's just always people calling, and things need to get done. And it's just go, 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 go. And you can get to the end of the week and say, man, I was busy all week, but I never worked on the most important thing. And so we as a team, I try to run my teams leaner with less bodies and staying highly focused on the most important things, and then measuring them in short, the shortest intervals you can, because that'll tell you if we're making progress or not. And all those numbers have to point towards enterprise value, right? They have to point towards the top goal at the top. And enterprise value might be on top of, hey, I want to have 150 restaurants and I want to have, a valuation of X amount and whatnot. But yeah, this has been a good book. I've turned a lot of people onto it. Maybe someday I should meet Lee Benson and cause I probably sold 100, I've probably given away 100 books
Yeah.
actually.
We'll
But,
clip this. We'll clip this and
yeah,
send this to him.
okay.
It's the inputs that drive the output. You can't get lost in the details, but the details, like you said, are important. It's the number of smiles, it's your food costs, it's all these little details that are extremely important. And everyone on the team should have accountability and should have ownership of one of those areas. And if done right, it's like an orchestra. If done right, beautiful music plays. So I love that. And I hope that that inspires someone to either pick up a book or apply that same principle in their business, whether it's a restaurant or a factory. It's applicable to life as a whole.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yesterday I was with a guy that I consider a mentor, a guy named Jeff Chandler, great guy out of Austin, CEO of a company. And one of the phrases that he used to say to me all the time, and we'd said it back and forth to each other, is, look, if everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. So we better sure figure out what the priority is. But it seems like in this crazy life we live, everything's a priority. Do this, do this, do this. And we just need to kind of cut through that and go, what is the priority? Let's stay on it. And that's the hard part, especially in technology, when anybody can reach me in a moment notice on my phone and text me and get me jumping 150 emails a day. Yeah, it's hard to stay on task, but this has been a good book. It's a good guideline for my life. So
Let me ask you one last question to wrap it up. If I talk to you in a year from now, I bring you back on the podcast, what would you want to accomplish in a year from now to say that you did a good job with Rusty Taco? What would you be proud of if you get it accomplished in 1 year? And I'm going to hold you to it. I'm going to have another podcast of you in a year from now, and I want to
okay.
see if you accomplish that.
Okay, so you've never asked me this question before, so I'm it's not like something I had a canned answer for.
No, no,
Like the
it's a
the the
curveball.
re, yeah, the reality. I mean, Rusty Taco just hit the Movers and Shakers 100
Yep.
list. It came out last
Congratulations,
week.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
super
NRA.
exciting. Yeah, super exciting. All that's good, but like deep down inside, man, this is like a very you know from the heart type answer is I'd love our franchisees to be making, showing positive comp, making great money, in love with the brand more than they are today, feeling like they're part of something special. And I got to figure out how to measure that.
Mhm.
But like, that's my visceral feeling is I need the franchisees to love it. It's not about what I do. It's about what we do together that'll bring success to them, because that's kind of the essence of the whole franchise, community is they win, we win. So I got to find ways to make them win, and I got to find ways to make them happy. When franchisees start stepping up going, I need to open another location. This is going too good. That's where I got to be. Right. And
Yeah,
so,
it's a good
that,
feeling.
that is, yeah, that is the true, honest, I feel like that's my mission. I'm owned by a parent company. They have expectations. I do have to do the things. I've got a 5-year plan, but I'll never hit the 5-year plan if I don't do exactly what I told you. It's got to be a win-win for the franchisees. And that's going to be measured in profit, their store sales, and their desire to open more restaurants.
All right, that's their number.
Yeah,
Dan, thank you
there
so
you go.
much for joining the show. I am super excited to see where you guys go. I'm super excited about the brand. I'm excited about you. I think you have a leadership style that I have grew up with, whether it's Arnold or David Goggins. You have that energy, and I freaking love it. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us.
Well, DT, always a pleasure, man. I hope we catch up soon. All right.
All right, take care. Bye.
All right. See ya. Bye.